Thank you, Chairman. I agree with the Chairman that it shouldn't matter what you look like, that it shouldn't matter if you're bald or 5'8" or 5'9" or black or white, or it shouldn't. But in the United States of America, too often it does. That's just the reality, right? And our history doesn't really have a big history of systematic discrimination against bald people or people that are 5'8". But it does against people of color. That is just the truth. All of this is about reducing those barriers. It's not about favoring one side or the other. It's about recognizing our history, recognizing that all things have not been equal, recognizing, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, that we do not exist in a perfect situation where what you outlined is true, because it's not. In that not everybody has access. And if we are going to be our best, then we have to have a level playing field, and we have to provide everybody with access. And then, if that level playing field exists and everybody has access, then we can find the best. But we can't do that right now. And that is the charge of these efforts. So in that vein, Ambassador, I'd like you to just explain very briefly some of the changes that I believe have been unfairly characterized to the change in the Foreign Service Officer test in the hiring process. Because some people will say that it used to be the case that applicants just had to go through the Foreign Service Officer test, and then they would pass that gate and then look at other criteria. But now we've actually broadened the aperture, is my understanding. We look at more factors, which actually increases the pool of applicants, which seems like a good thing to me. Is that accurate? And can you describe that for us, please?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And if I may respond to the Chairman's comments as well, that is exactly what has happened. We have broadened the aperture to allow more Americans to have access to the ability to serve, which is really what we want. I think it's really important that we keep in mind that how one gets into the Foreign Service has changed multiple times over years. This is not the first change. Throughout all of these changes, we need to keep in mind the reality is that there are many people already in the Department of State before this latest change who never took the written exam, never took it, but are not questioned about it because people assume that they have. We have a number of fellowship programs, including Presidential Management Fellows, Boren Fellows, AAAS Fellows, mid-level program that allows people to come into the Foreign Service over time. No one touched the written exam to become a Foreign Service officer, and these people have had successful careers as Foreign Service officers. So the written test has never been the be-all, end-all of who is going to be a successful diplomat. A former boss of mine contacted me last week, talked about his incoming class and how he had to take the Foreign Service written exam a few times before coming in, and his roommate passed it on the first try, but mustered out within 2 years of joining the Department of State. One of the barrier analyses we may need to do is who comes in which way and what their careers look like. Some of the barrier analyses that we're doing are going to follow career paths over time to see, are there barriers to success in the Foreign Service based on demographics? But how you come in may be something we should look at so that we can answer the question for those who have concerns that the change in the Foreign Service written test may lower our standards. But again, already many people have come in without taking that test. I've heard no questions about them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. My time is expiring, and I yield back.